In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can apply the CRUD concept in our Laravel application. What we are going to be building is a project that will create, read, update, and delete products. Now, in order to come along and to understand what I am going to be doing in this tutorial, you should be familiar with the different concepts of Laravel like migrations, models, routes, controllers, and so on. Now, before we get started with coding, you need to make sure that you have a database connection. If you don't have a database connection, go check the video on the info tab on how to configure a MySQL database table in Laravel. Now, let's jump right into the project. Now, the first thing that we're going to be creating is a migration table. So we're going to say PHP artisan make migration, followed by the name of the migration table. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add the create attribute, which will create the products table. So I'm going to type create products. And once we hit on enter, then you will see the migration is created successfully. So let's click on that. And as you can see here in the migration file, we can create our attributes. So I'm going to add another attribute. So this is going to be a string attribute, and I'm going to add name, and this is going to be a text attribute, and for this I'm going to add details. Alright, so now save the file. So once we have saved the file, we'll go into terminal and we're going to migrate the migration table. So we're going to say PHP artisan migrate. So once we hit on enter, then you will see the create products table has been migrated. If we go inside our database and hit on refresh, then you will see a new table named products has been added. So if we click on that, then you will see our attributes that we have just added inside the migration table. So now the next step that we are going to take is we are going to create our controller, which is going to hold our whole logic. And in addition, I am also going to add the resource attribute, which is going to create pre-built methods inside the product controller. So basically these pre-built methods are going to handle all the resource operations. And in addition to that, I'm also going to create a product model which is going to communicate with the products table. And once we hit on enter, then Laravel will ask us if we want to create the product model. So we're going to type yes. And as you can see, we have the product model created successfully together with the product controller. So now before I start changing the model and the controller, I'm going to head over to the routes file. And inside here, I'm going to use the product controller. And then I'm going to create the route, and on the route I'm going to call the resource method. Now the reason for that is because the resource method generates the route parameters for all the resource routes automatically. Then inside the URI I'm going to type products, and then I'm going to add the product controller class. So once we are done creating the route, I will head over to the product controller. This can be found inside the app, then inside the HTTP and inside the controller. And once we open the file, then you will see the pre-built methods that we have created using the resource attribute in the command. And these pre-built methods can be used to handle the resource operations. So now we're going to start editing the methods one by one. So we're going to start with the index method. Inside the function body, I am going to declare a variable called products, and I'm going to set it equal to the model. And on the model, I'm going to call the latest method together with the paginate method, and inside the paginate method, we're going to add 5 as a parameter. Now what this does, it will get 5 items or 5 records from the products table, and it will store it inside the products variable that we have declared. So next what we're going to do is we're going to return a view, and the view that we will return will be inside the products folder, which we haven't created yet, and the view will be named index to index the records. And we're also going to call the compact method, which is going to compact the products variable that we have declared. And what it does by compacting is it will convert the products variable to an array. Then we will call the with method. And inside the with method, we're going to declare a variable named I, which is going to be assigned to what we will access from the request using the input method. Then I'm going to multiply this with 5 because we are using 5 records at a time. Once I'm done changing the index method, I will head over to the create method, and inside the function body we are going to simply return a view, and this view will be found inside the products folder, and the view will be named create. So that's it. Now we'll move on editing the store method. Inside the store method we're going to validate the request, so we're going to type request validate, and the input fields that we're going to validate are name, and we're going to set this equal to required, so we're going to make this required. And I'm going to do the same thing with the detail as well, so we're going to make detail required. So once we are done with creating the validation, we'll move on to the next line. And the next line we're going to create records using the request all method. So for that we're going to use the create method, and inside the create method parameter we're going to use the request all. We're going to use the request all to store the request inside the products table. Then in the next line I'm going to return a redirect to the route, and inside the route I'm going to type products.index. And we're also going to call the with method, so we're going to return a message, and this is going to be a success message, and the success message will print out, let's say, product created successfully. So once we are done editing the store method, we'll move on to the next one, which is the show method. And inside the show method, I'm going to simply return a view, and the view that I'm going to return will be the show blade file that will be stored inside the products folder. And then we're going to call the compact method to create an array out of the products. Then once we are done editing the show method, we're going to move on to the next one, which is the edit method. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did with the show method. So I'm going to copy paste the whole line, and I'm going to change this to edit. And then I will move on editing the update method, and inside here I'm going to copy the request validation, and I'm going to paste it inside the update method. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something similar to the create method that we used before. Instead, I'm going to use the update method to update the table with the newly created requests. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to return a redirect. So I'm going to copy the code here. And I'm going to paste it inside here. And I'm going to change this to product updated successfully. And now we are done editing the update method. So now we'll move on editing the destroy method. Inside here, I'm going to call the product variable, and on the product variable, I'm going to call the delete method. Then I'm going to return a redirect to the route. So I'm going to copy the exact same code, and I'm going to paste it out. And the only thing that I will change will be product deleted successfully. Alright, so now we are done editing the ProductController file. And as next, I'm going to head over to the product model, and inside there we're gonna make some changes. So let's head over to the product model file, and we can find that inside the models. And inside here, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a protected fillable property, and I'm going to assign this to the form fields that we will use to create the products. And this will be name and detail. Now the reason for that is because using the fillable property allows us to protect our model from mass assignment. Now only the fields that we have assigned to the fillable can be filled. So now that I have created the product controller and the model, what I'm going to do as next is creating the blade files one by one. So to do that, I'm going to create the folder first, which is going to be named products, where we'll store our blade files. And as the first, I'm going to create a blade file named layout.blade.php. And inside here, we're going to implement our layout. So first, I'm going to use the exclamation mark to use a pre-built HTML code. And then I'm going to change the title to Laravel 10 CRUD application. So once I'm done with that, I will implement the Bootstrap framework CDN. So to do that, go to the browser and then search for Twitter Bootstrap CDN. Then click on the first link. And on the search bar, on the version, we need to type 4.0. And then scroll to this one, and then we'll copy the link tag. Inside the head element, we'll paste the link tag that we have copied. And once we are done with that, we'll have to add a div inside the body. So we're going to type div. And inside the div, I'm going to create yield method. And inside the yield method, we're going to type content. Now, what this function does, it is used to retrieve the content from the child page permanently. So if we would head over to the app and if we would type products, then we will get an error because we don't have a child page yet. So we would have to use the products.index, but we haven't created that yet. So that is what we are going to do now. We're going to right click and choose new file, and we're going to type index.blade.php. Inside the newly created file, I'm going to use the extend method to extend from the products.layout. And what the extend method does, it will render the layout blade file every time we call the extend method. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a section, and the section name will be named content since we are yielding content from the layout page. And inside this section, I'm going to create a div. Inside the div, I'm going to create another div, and I'm going to do that 3 times. And then I'm going to create a class called pull-left, and I'm going to replicate that, and this is going to be pull-right. Inside the first div, I'm going to add an h2 element, which is going to print Laravel 10 CRUD example from scratch. Then inside the other div, I'm going to add an a tag. And inside the href, I'm going to type a route. And inside the route method parameter, I'm going to type products.create, which is the route to the create blade file. Then between the a tags, I'm going to type create new product. Then inside the first 2 divs, I'm going to add class. So I'm going to type class, and this will be assigned to row, and the other one will be assigned to col-lg-12. And I'm going to add another one, which is the margin-tb. Then under the div, I'm going to create an if statement in order to check whether the session has been created successfully. Inside the condition, I'm going to assign a message variable to the session facade, and I'm going to call the get method to get the data from the session. And I'm going to say if the message variable is equal to the session get success, then I'm going to create an alert that will print out the message variable. To do that, I'm going to create a div, and inside the div, I'm going to create a paragraph. And for the div, I'm going to create a class, and this class will be alert and alert-success. And inside the paragraph tag, I'm going to simply put the message variable. Alright, so now we are done with the alert message. What we are going to do is I'm going to create a table. And inside this table, I'm going to create a table row, and the table row will contain multiple th elements. So I'm going to paste them out. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to add a class inside the table element, and the class will be table and table bordered. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something inside the first th element, and this will be number, and inside the other one will be name, and inside the other one will be detail. Then inside the last one, I'm going to add a width property, and I'm going to set this equal to 280 pixels. And between the tags, I'm going to add action. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to create a for each loop that will loop over the products. So I'm going to say for each. And I'm going to replace this with products as product. Inside the for each loop body, I'm going to type a tr element, and this will contain multiple td elements which will be filled with dynamic data. So inside the first one, I'm going to type an incrementing variable called I, and inside the second one, I'm going to type product arrow name, and this will take the name out of the collection instance. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it inside the other table data element, and I'm going to call this detail. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to create a new table data, and inside this table data, I'm going to add a form element. This form element will have an action attribute, and this will be set equal to a route, and the route will be products.create. Then I'm going to use a method attribute, and the method for this form will be post. Then inside the form tag, I'm going to create two A tags, and the href attribute for the first A tag will be set equal to route. So I'm going to copy the route that I used inside the form element, and I'm going to paste it into the href attribute. And I'm going to replace create with show. Now, in order to specify which product we are going to show, we need to type product ID. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to add a class attribute, and I will set it equal to btn and btn/info. Then inside the A tag, I'm going to type show. And I need to add another A tag, so I'm going to replicate this, and I'm going to change show with edit. And I'm going to do the same thing inside here. And I'm also going to need to change the class, so I'm going to change this to btn primary. And what we also need to include inside the form is the CSRF protection in order to protect the form from possible attacks. So I'm also going to include a method, which is going to be a delete method. And a line further down, I'm going to add a button. As a type, we're going to add submit, and as a class, I'm going to type btn and btn-danger. And then between the button tags, I'm going to type delete. Alright, so this looks good for now. Now let's head over to the web app and refresh the page. And as you can see, we're getting this as a result. But it seems like we are missing a class for the create new product button. So let's head over to the A tag, and inside here I forgot to add a class. So the class will be btn and btn-success. So if we save it and refresh the page, as you can see, the button create new product is looking better. But as you can see, we still need to add some margin inside the layout page. So let's head over to the layout plate file. And as you can see inside the div, I have forgotten to add a class container. Now save the file and head over to the web app. And as you can see, it is looking much better. So if we try to click on create new product, then we will get an error because the create blade file is not created yet. So that is what I'm going to do. So on products, I'm going to right click and create new file, and this will be named create.blade.php. Inside here, we're going to extend from layout, and we are also going to use the section content. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it out. And then I'm going to add a div. And inside the div, I'm going to add a class, and this will be row. And I'm going to add another div, and the class for this div will be col-lg-12, and the other one will be margin-db. Alright, so inside this div, I'm going to add another one, and this div will have a class, which is going to be pull-left, and inside this div, I will add a h2 element, and I'm going to say add new product. So I'm going to do that twice. So I'm going to replicate this div. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it out. And inside here, I'm going to change it to pull right. And I'm going to remove the h2 element, and instead of it, I'm going to add an a class. The href will be a route, so I'm going to add route, and the route will be products.index. And since this button will be used to go back to the index page, I'm going to type back between the tags. And as next, I'm going to create an if condition that will check if we do have errors. So I'm going to say if, and as a condition, I'm going to say errors, and then I'm going to call the any method to check if errors exist. So inside the if statement body, we are going to display an error message. So we're going to say div, and this div will have multiple classes set equal to alert, alert-danger, and inside this div, we're going to print a message. So for that, I'm going to use the strong tag. And inside the strong tags, I'm going to type whoops. And outside the strong tag, I'm going to type there was a problem with your input. Followed by 2 break tags. And once I'm done displaying the error message, I will create an unlisted tag to display the error itself. For that, I'm going to create a for each loop, and I'm going to type for each errors all. So this will catch all the errors. And then inside the for each, I'm going to create a list element, and this will print out the error. Then I'm going to add the end for each. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a form, and I will set the action attribute to a route, and this route will be products.store. And then after that, I'm going to add the method attribute, and I will set this equal to post, so it's going to be a post method. And inside the form action, I'm going to create a CSRF protection to protect the form. And then I'm going to create a div, and this div will have the class row. And inside this div, I'm going to add another div, and this div will have a class set equal to col-xs-12, and another one will be col-sm-12, and then I'm going to add col-md-12. Then inside this div, I'm going to add another div, and this div will have a class set equal to form-group. And inside here, I'm going to add a strong tag, and inside this strong tag, I'm going to type name. And under the strong tag, I'm going to create an input field, and the type of this input field will be text. And then I'm going to create an attribute name set equal to name, and a class set equal to form-control. And then I will add a placeholder that will display name. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the div column, and I'm going to paste it out. And the only thing that we'll need to change is we're going to change name to detail. And we're going to replace the input field with a text area tag. So we're going to say text area, and the name will be set equal to detail. And I'm going to remove these 3 pre-created attributes, and instead I'm going to create a class that will be set equal to form control. And then additionally, I'm going to add a style attribute, and this will be set equal to height of 150 pixel. Then I'm going to create a placeholder attribute as well, and this will be set equal to detail. And then I'm going to create another div, and this div will have the same class as the first div, so I'm going to paste it out. And additionally, I'm going to add a class called text-center. Then inside this div, I'm going to add a button, and this button will have a submit type and a class set equal to btn and btn-primary. And between the button tags, I'm going to type submit, And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an end section. So that is for the create blade file. Now let's head over to the web app and we're going to refresh the page. And as you can see, we're getting a view where we can create our products. But as you can see, the back button is not showing properly. So I think we have forgot to add a class. So here inside the A tag, we're going to add a class set equal to btn and btn-primary. So now let's save the file and head back to the web app and refresh the page. As you can see, the back button is looking alright. So now if we try to fill the form with some test data, so if we would type product and inside the detail input field, I'm going to type details. And now let's click on submit. And as you can see, we're getting an alert message that says product is created successfully, together with the product itself that is shown as a number 1. And we also have the action buttons that will show, edit or delete. But for now, if we click on show, then we'll get an error which would say that the view product show is not found. So the same thing would apply if we would click on edit and we'll get the same error. So what we need to do is we're going to create each view for the show and for the edit action. Before we start doing it, I'm going to make everything clearer by closing these files that we don't need anymore. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to right click on products. I'm going to select new file and I'm going to create show.blade.php. Inside here, I'm going to paste out the first 2 lines that I'm going to copy inside the create blade file. Let's add the end section as well. And inside the section, I'm going to create a div. And this div will have a class assigned to row, and inside this div I'm going to create another one, and this one will have a class set equal to col-lg-12 and another class set equal to margin-tb. And then inside this div I'm going to add another one, and the class for this div will be pull-left, and inside this div I'm going to add a h2 element that will print out show product. Then I'm going to replicate this code. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it out right under it, and I'm going to replace this with right, and I'm going to delete the h2 element, and instead I'm going to create an a tag, and this a tag will have an href attribute set equal to a route that will be products.index. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to create multiple classes, and these will be btn and btn-primary. And between the a tags, I'm going to type back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the whole div with the class row, and I'm going to paste it out. And then I'm going to update the newly created div. So the things that I'm going to update is the class inside the second div. So this will be col-sm-12, and I will add another one named col-md-12. Then what I'm also going to change is I'm going to change the pull-left class, so I'm going to update it to form-group. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to update h2 with a strong tag, and inside the strong tag I'm going to type name, and after the strong tag I'm going to type product arrow name to print the product name. Then once I'm done with that, I'm going to delete the pull right div, and instead I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to paste it out right under it. And what I'm going to change is I'm going to change the name to detail and the product name to product detail. So save the file and head over to the web app, and inside here we're going to click on show, and as you can see we're getting the show blade file which shows us the product details. If we would go back and if we would try to edit a specific product, then we would get an error which will print out view products.edit is not found. So now what is left to do is creating the edit view file, which will make it possible for us to edit products. And inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the whole code that we have inside the create view file. So let's paste it out. And here we're going to have to change some things. For example, the h2 header, that will be changed from add new product to edit. And what I'm also going to change is the route inside the form element. So I'm going to change this from product.store to product.update. And additionally, I'm going to specify the product ID that is going to be updated. Then inside the form element, I'm going to specify the put method. Then once I'm done with that, I'm going to add the current value from the product name inside the input field name. So I'm going to assign the value attribute to product arrow name. And I'm going to do the same thing for the text area tag as well. So here instead, I'm going to print the product detail between the tags. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it out. And here I'm going to replace name with detail. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to save the file and I'm going to head over to the web app and I'm going to refresh the page. And we are getting an error which says that the route isn't assigned properly. So let's go back to the file and replace the arrow with a dot and save the file. And as you can see now, we can edit product. So we can change this to product 1 and this to details. And once we hit on submit, then we will get the product is updated successfully. If, for example, I would try to create a new product with a new name, and if I would click on delete, then I will get an error, which means that we cannot delete the specific product. So let's go back to the file and inside the index, as you can see here inside the form action, we have to type products.destroy instead of the products.create. And we also need to specify the product ID that we want to destroy. So I'm going to replace this. So now save the file and I'm going to click on delete. So I'm going to go back again and refresh the page. And as you can see, we're getting the product is deleted successfully. So that is how you can apply the CRUD concept in Laravel. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and a subscribe if you are new to the channel, and I hope to see you next time.